There's something magnetic about certain men, something you can't quite name but undeniably feel. These aren't your average guys blending into the crowd, hoping for scraps of attention. These are the ones who capture all of it, who walk into a room and instantly become the gravitational center. What's fascinating isn't just their looks or money, though some may have those things. It's something deeper, more psychological. They radiate a presence that becomes addicting. Women meet them once, and they start lingering in their thoughts like a melody they can't get out of their heads. The pull isn't forced. It's subtle, strategic, almost primal. It starts with how unimpressed they are. With anything. They don't gawk at luxury, don't light up at compliments, and don't react to drama. Just like a seasoned rapper who's already tasted wealth, they meet opulence with a shrug and a quiet, cool. That nonchalance does something to people. It flips the dynamic. Suddenly, it's not about them chasing you. It's about you being the prize they want to win. Women feel that energy immediately. Instead of handing over your interest for free, you make them earn it. That effort becomes addictive. That's how the game begins. Then there's the way they speak. Slow, deliberate, never rushed. In a world where everyone's trying to be louder and faster, they're the opposite. Like high-level drug lords in interviews, they speak with calm control, as if time bends around them. This pace projects depth. It signals that they know something others don't. They don't fill silences to avoid awkwardness. They own it. That level of poise becomes hypnotic. It whispers strength without ever having to shout. And when someone crosses a line, they don't flinch. No defensive laughter, no quick rebuttals. They just stare, blinkless, like a mafia boss in court. That kind of restraint makes people pause. It creates a subtle discomfort, but not the kind that pushes people away. It draws them closer, curious and alert. Women sense the edge in that stillness, and it sticks with them. It feels like a calm surface hiding a deep current. Sometimes they vanish, without a word. No story, no reason, just gone. Like elite fighters who disappear before a big match, off the grid, off social media, off the radar. That unpredictability creates a loop in the mind. Where did he go? What is he doing? Why didn't he say anything? That absence makes their presence feel heavier when they return. It's the mystery that feeds the obsession. When they smile, it's rare, authentic, not forced to smooth over awkwardness or to win favor. Just like the warriors in old samurai paintings, stone-faced, unreadable, until something truly moves them. That kind of smile becomes valuable. It tells people that emotions aren't cheap. When they do come, they matter. That scarcity makes women lean in, trying to unlock more of it. They don't toss out opinions easily either. Instead, they let others speak, ask questions, fumble for answers. Like Socrates in conversation, they hold back their perspective until it's earned. This makes them appear thoughtful, philosophical, even if they're not. Women instinctively try harder to connect, to understand, to draw them out. And in doing so, they become more invested. That pursuit builds emotional gravity. You'll never see their phone face up during a conversation. Always face down. Always present. It's a small gesture, but it speaks volumes. It says, "I'm here, not distracted. You have my full attention." That kind of focus is rare, and it feels incredible to be on the receiving end of it. Without saying anything, they make you feel like the most important person in the room. And when they tell stories, there's no moral, no lesson, no wrap-up. Just vibes. Like something Kurt Cobain might say. Disjointed, raw, but it hits. It sticks. You don't remember the facts. You remember the feeling. That unpredictability, that randomness, signals that they aren't trying to teach or lead. They're just living, and that kind of presence becomes unforgettable. When they go silent, they don't explain it. Ever. No nervous laughter, no backpedaling. They just sit in it. Detectives use this tactic all the time. Silence makes most people squirm. But if you're comfortable in that void, people project meaning into it. Women, especially, start imagining what you're thinking, why you're quiet, what you're not saying. That ambiguity pulls them deeper. They're fine being misunderstood. They don't chase approval or try to correct every misperception. Like Nikola Tesla, they're content with being a little strange, a little off. That self-assurance is magnetic. It sends a signal. I don't need you to get me. I get me. And oddly, that makes people try even harder to understand them. The mystery, again, becomes the hook. In a room full of men, they're the ones giving genuine compliments to others. Not to manipulate or look good, but because they're confident enough to uplift. Pirate captains did this with their crew, building loyalty through honest praise. When a man applauds another man without fear of looking soft, it shows strength. Women notice. It says, this man is respected, not just admired. It shows leadership. Every movement they make is smooth, deliberate, like Bruce Lee flowing through water. No wasted energy. Every step, every gesture says, I'm in control. Women notice body language before they hear words, and smoothness speaks safety. It speaks confidence. It's captivating in a way chaos never can be. They don't speak in facts. They speak in images, like Shakespeare turning pain into poetry. Instead of saying, I'm tired, they might say, my bones feel like wet concrete. That kind of language bypasses logic and goes straight to the heart. Women remember how a man makes them feel, not what he says. And speaking in images creates emotion that lingers. Sometimes they're kind when no one's watching, or so it seems. In mafia films, the coldest bosses melt in the presence of their children. That contrast adds layers. So when a woman overhears you speaking gently to a stranger or helping someone without fanfare, it registers. She wasn't meant to see it. And that's what makes it powerful. It's real. It's not performative. They hold eye contact just a little longer than normal. Just 1 second past comfort. It's a tactic used by therapists. And it works. That lingering gaze says, I see you. But it also disarms. It creates a flicker of vulnerability, a spark of tension. Not aggressive, just present. And women feel it like heat without flame. It sticks. And then there's that one weird obsession. Something totally harmless but unexpected. Maybe it's collecting rubber ducks or wearing the same hat every weekend. It seems odd at first, but then it becomes endearing. Memorable. That one quirk sets them apart. It becomes a story, a signature, a personal brand. Women latch on to those differences, their conversation starters, memory anchors, and a little window into authenticity. They're often deeply connected to one ancient text, not as a show of intellect, but out of genuine interest. Some reread The Art of War or Marcus Aurelius's Meditations every year. That connection to old wisdom adds dimension. It tells the world, I'm not just reacting to trends, I'm rooted. That grounding creates the sense that they're playing a bigger game, something timeless. It's an energy that feels rare in a world chasing the now. Even when chaos erupts, they laugh. Not mockingly, just effortlessly. Like soldiers in war who crack jokes during firefights, not out of cruelty, but survival. That humor under pressure becomes a signal of strength. It says, I'm built for storms. When others freeze, they smirk. That calm becomes a lighthouse. Women pick up on that resilience instantly. It feels like protection in a world of unpredictability. They don't chase what other men chase. Not fame, not attention, not validation. Like Warren Buffett still eating fast food and driving an old car despite billions in the bank. That rejection of flash makes them stand out. They're not signaling success. They're living it. And women notice that quiet power. It doesn't beg to be seen. It just is. That kind of restraint becomes irresistible. And when tested, when pushed, they don't push back. They don't get loud. They don't even get tense. They go still, like a monk who remains calm while someone screams inches from his face. That kind of poise makes the chaos feel embarrassed. The storm fizzles, and the silence speaks louder than anger ever could. That's the final layer of magnetism, the calm that no one can shake. It doesn't need to be explained. It's felt, deeply. And that's why these men don't just attract attention. They keep it, without trying, without noise, without asking. There's something unnerving about a man who doesn't flinch. Not when challenged, not when insulted, not even when the stakes are high. It's not that he's numb or emotionless, it's that he's anchored. There's no panic, no rush to defend, no impulse to prove himself. He just stays still, silent, unbothered. That kind of presence is rare. It feels like control in its rawest form. And women pick up on it instantly. It's the kind of calm that doesn't need armor because it's built from the inside out. It says, "I've been through fire. This doesn't shake me." He doesn't follow the crowd. In fact, he often walks in the opposite direction. Not to be edgy or rebellious, but because he knows exactly who he is and what he values. When most men chase attention, he turns it down. When others scramble to be seen, he fades into the background. By choice. And somehow that makes him even more visible. He isn't the loudest in the room, but people still lean in when he speaks. Because when someone doesn't need the spotlight finds them. He listens more than he talks, but when he does speak, it's never filler. His words carry weight, not because of what he says, but because of what he chooses not to. That restraint makes his presence feel rare, like a secret not everyone gets to hear. And when a woman finally does get a piece of him, his thoughts, his attention, his laughter, it feels earned. It feels like a win. And that win, that's what keeps her coming back. There's no checklist to become a man like this. No formula. It's a shift in energy. A decision to stop trying so hard and start being more. To let go of the need for validation and step fully into your own gravity. That gravity is built in the quiet, in the pauses between texts, in the times you say no when it would have been easier to say yes. It's in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. That's where the real power lives. Even in the way he dresses, there's a subtle rebellion. Not sloppy, not flashy, just intentional. He wears clothes like they're an extension of his mood, not a costume for approval. There's a quiet confidence in not needing to be trendy. It signals that he's not dressing for Instagram or to impress a room, he's dressing for himself. And that authenticity shows. Women notice, because when a man is at ease in his skin, everything he wears looks good. He doesn't brag. He lets others find out on their own. Maybe they discover he plays 3 instruments, or that he once lived in a foreign country, or that he built something from nothing. But he never leads with it. There's no resume in his conversations, no name dropping. That humility becomes a mystery. People start wondering, what else don't I know? And that curiosity, that hunger to learn more, is addictive. Even in conflict, he doesn't raise his voice. He lowers it. Not to intimidate, but to show control. It's a psychological switch. When everyone else is shouting, the quiet one becomes the most powerful voice in the room. Because it's not volume that commands respect. It's calm. And calm is unforgettable. He never texts back too fast. Not because he's playing games, but because he's not glued to his phone. His life isn't paused, waiting for messages. He moves through his day with purpose, not distraction. And when he does respond, his replies feel thoughtful, not reactive. That delay builds anticipation. That presence, even in absence, leaves a mark. He doesn't try to prove he's a nice guy. He just is, quietly, consistently. He helps strangers without needing praise. He treats waiters with respect. He keeps promises, and he does it all without ever mentioning it. That silent integrity is a rare currency. Women notice it when you think they're not looking, and that's exactly when it matters most. When he walks into a room, he doesn't scan it to see who's looking. He just enters with quiet intention, like he belongs there, not because he's entitled, but because he doesn't need permission. That self-assurance is felt before he even speaks. It's in the way his shoulders move, the way his gaze lingers just long enough, the way he doesn't fidget or fill space nervously. It's the body language of someone who knows exactly who he is. He's not always the funniest guy, but when he does say something funny, it lands. Hard, because it's unexpected. He's not trying to entertain. He's just noticing the world differently. And when he laughs, it's real. Full. Free. That kind of laugh isn't common. It's the laugh of a man who isn't hiding, who isn't shrinking. And when others hear it, they want to be part of whatever created that moment. He doesn't flake. If he says he'll be there, he's there. If he gives his word, he keeps it. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because his word matters to him. Reliability isn't flashy. It doesn't get likes, but it builds trust. And trust, that's the foundation of every attraction that lasts. He doesn't chase. He aligns. If someone's energy matches his, great. If not, he lets it go. No convincing, no begging. He moves on with grace. That kind of emotional discipline is rare. It shows that he values himself more than he values being liked. And ironically, that's what makes people like him more. He's playful in private, but composed in public. He knows how to be silly without being foolish, how to flirt without being needy, how to tease without disrespect. That balance of lightness and strength creates a dynamic energy. Women feel like they're with someone who can protect and play at the same time. And that combination? That's dangerous, in the best way. He doesn't follow trends. He sets them, silently. While others debate what's cool, he's already doing his own thing, not for rebellion's sake, but because he's tuned into his own frequency. That originality isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle, but it always leaves a mark. People talk about him after he leaves. They remember. He doesn't seek revenge when wronged. He withdraws, not out of weakness, but because he knows his energy is too expensive to waste on chaos. That quiet detachment hits harder than anger ever could. It says, I value peace more than being right. Yes, and that kind of emotional maturity is magnetic. He can be intense without being overbearing. When he listens, it's full body. No glancing at his phone, no half nods, just presence. That kind of attention is a mirror. It makes the other person feel like the most important human in the world. And that feeling? That's what creates attachment. He's not afraid of silence, not in conversations, not in relationships, not in life. He doesn't need to fill every gap with words or noise. He lets moments breathe. And in that space, something rare happens. People start leaning in. They want more. More of his thoughts, his time, his energy. Because he gives just enough to spark curiosity, but never enough to satisfy it fully. He's not obsessed with being alpha. He just is, quietly, consistently, not by dominating others, but by mastering himself. His ego doesn't need to be fed by applause or attention. It's been tempered, sharpened, refined, and that refinement shows in everything he does, from the way he opens doors to the way he sets boundaries. He's the kind of man who can make a woman feel both safe and slightly on edge, not because he's playing games, but because his depth is unpredictable. There's always a new layer to uncover, a new thought, a new side. That complexity keeps the connection alive. It feels like a journey, never boring, never flat. He's not afraid to walk alone. In fact, he prefers it sometimes. Not because he's antisocial, but because solitude recharges him. He's not looking to be completed. He's already whole. And when someone enters his life, it's not to fill a void, but to share space. That independence is attractive. It says, I want you, but I don't need you. And that balance is everything. He learns constantly, not just from books, but from people, mistakes, silence. He doesn't pretend to know everything, but he's always expanding. That hunger for growth shows humility. And humility, when paired with strength, becomes magnetic. He doesn't fight for attention. He just shows up. Fully, authentically. No persona, no script. Just presence. And that presence, when it's real, becomes unforgettable. He doesn't just talk about boundaries, he lives them. You'll never see him over-explaining his choices, trying to justify why he didn't show up to every event, why he didn't reply right away, or why he walked away from something that didn't serve him. His life speaks for itself, and that silence around his decisions isn't cold, it's powerful. It tells the world that his peace isn't up for negotiation. And that kind of peace? It's rare, and rare things attract attention. He makes people feel seen, but not in a performative way. He notices the details others overlook. The way someone fidgets when they're nervous. The way their voice shifts when they're lying to themselves. He doesn't always call it out, but you know he sees it. That kind of presence can feel a little intimidating at first, like he's reading a page you haven't written yet. But once you're around it long enough, it starts to feel like home. Because being seen, not just looked at, but truly seen, is one of the most addicting feelings in the world. He's not addicted to control, but he has mastery over himself. He doesn't need to control a room, a conversation, or a relationship. He only controls what he can: his breath, his choices, his reactions. And that consistency builds trust. In a world full of emotional volatility, he becomes the lighthouse. The thing that doesn't move, even in the storm. He doesn't flirt for validation. He flirts because he's having fun. And you can feel the difference. One feels desperate, the other feels light. His teasing is never mean-spirited. It's sharp, playful, a little dangerous, but always respectful. He knows where the line is, and part of the thrill is how close he can get to it without ever crossing it. That kind of emotional precision, it's not something you can fake. It's a reflection of years of self-awareness. And when he compliments someone, it never feels like flattery. It feels like truth. He doesn't say, "You're beautiful," just to fill space. He says it when he means it. And when he does, it hits harder. Because it comes from a place of clarity, not need. That authenticity makes his words land deeper. They don't just brush the surface, they sink in. He doesn't compete with other men. He celebrates them. That's the difference between a man who's pretending to be confident and one who actually is. The former sees every other man as a threat. The latter sees them as allies, teachers, mirrors. That kind of secure energy creates a ripple effect. It makes women feel safe. It makes other men respect him. And it creates a world where real connections can happen. He doesn't need to be the smartest person in the room. He just asks the best questions. questions that make people stop and think, questions that invite people to reflect, not just react. That kind of curiosity is contagious. It turns shallow conversations into deep pools, and people remember how they felt in those pools. They remember the guy who didn't just talk, but made them think in ways they hadn't before. He's not obsessed with being remembered. He's obsessed with being real. And the irony is, that's what makes him unforgettable. He doesn't apologize for his intensity. Whether he loves, creates, learns, or fights, he does it all in full. There's no halfway with him. And while that scares some people, it magnetizes others. Because intensity, when grounded in clarity, feels like purpose. It feels like a man who knows what he's here to do. And that kind of clarity is rare. It feels like heat without fire, and it draws people closer, even when they don't fully understand why. He doesn't over-identify with his job, his money, or his status. Those are roles, hats he can take off and put on as needed. Who he is at his core. That's something deeper, something no resume can capture. That unshakable identity, that's what makes him feel rooted. It allows him to move through any room without trying to prove anything. Because who he is doesn't change based on where he is. He's not afraid to be bored, to sit in stillness, to turn off the noise and just be. That ability to find peace without distraction, that's what gives his presence depth. Most people are running from themselves. He's made peace with who he is, and when someone's comfortable with themselves, they create comfort for others. They become the still point in a spinning world. He doesn't give affection to get it. He gives it because he means it. A hand on your back at just the right moment. A word that lands when you didn't even know you needed it. That kind of emotional attunement doesn't come from scripts. It comes from presence, from paying attention, from caring deeply and quietly. He doesn't always answer questions directly. Sometimes he tells stories. Sometimes he gives metaphors. Sometimes he just raises an eyebrow and lets the silence do the talking. That unpredictability isn't frustrating. It's alluring, because it means you never quite know what's coming next. And mystery. Mystery is one of the most powerful forms of attraction there is. He doesn't ask for trust. He earns it. Slowly. Through actions, not words. Through consistency, not promises. And once he has it, he protects it. Because to him, trust isn't a tool. It's a sacred bond. And that reverence makes people feel safe in ways they've never felt before. He doesn't inflate his past or shrink from it. He owns it. Every scar, every misstep, every lesson. He wears his history like a well-worn jacket, not to brag, but because it fits. That kind of self-acceptance creates gravity. It says, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be honest. He's not always easy to love, but he's always worth it. Because when he chooses you, it's not out of convenience. It's out of clarity. He doesn't play hot and cold. He's warm, steady, grounded. And even when he's not speaking, you feel him. In the way he looks at you, in the way he listens, in the way he shows up when it matters. He's not afraid to walk away when something violates his values. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. That kind of discipline isn't taught in books. It's forged in solitude, in pain, in failure. And it's what makes his presence feel earned, not handed down. He doesn't manipulate. He inspires. Not through pressure, but through possibility. He lives in a way that makes others want to rise, to become more, to dig deeper, to shed the masks. And that kind of influence doesn't fade when he leaves the room. It lingers. He's not the loudest, but he is the clearest. His words don't echo. They resonate. They leave a vibration that sits in your chest long after he's gone. Because he's not trying to convince you. He's trying to connect with you. And that distinction makes all the difference. He doesn't tell you how loyal he is. He just doesn't flinch when things get hard. He stays. He listens. He works through it. That emotional endurance, that unwillingness to abandon when things get messy, that's what builds deep trust. That's what makes love feel safe. Not perfect, but safe. He doesn't try to be unforgettable. He just is, because he lives in alignment. He doesn't borrow energy. He generates it. He doesn't follow paths. He builds them. And when you meet someone like that, you feel it in your gut. That this man, this quiet, grounded, deeply human man, is the kind of presence you don't come across often. And when you do, you don't forget it. Not because he demands your memory, but because your soul chooses to remember.